and event has been amazing. Shout out Roy, Chart Addicts team, put on a phenomenal event.
We have over 5,000 people at this expo, walking around at the different booths.
So I feel good being back at an event environment and just being able to expose the prop society to the world.
What's going on, everybody? So for this video, I kind of want to give you a raw behind the scenes vlog of what it's like to be a freelance DP in Orlando, Florida. Now, this is a conference that I got hired for. It's a 3-day conference in Miami, Florida. And basically the whole conference is just a bunch of day traders, people who do stock market, people who do Bitcoin, crypto, all type of entrepreneurs. So this is a big project of mine. This event had over 5,000 people. And honestly, I was very honored to get hired for this event. I definitely met a lot of interesting people. I met a lot of multimillionaires. I met a lot of successful entrepreneurs. So this whole experience to me was very worth it, and it was a great networking experience for me. So that's why I figured I'd make this vlog to show you a little bit behind the scenes on what it's like to be hired actually for a big event like this. This is something that is definitely the first event that I was a part of that was this big, and I think it's very interesting. A lot of ups and downs to this and a lot of challenges I had to go through. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm gonna throw it all together and just let me know what you think. So right now I'm filming at this conference. It's the FX6 conference in Miami. And so far it's going out so good. Now what I'm using is the FX6 and I have a V-mount battery attached to it. I have an 85mm because I was shooting some guest speakers. And honestly, times like this, I really wish that I had a zoom lens, because a prime lens, I have a 35 and 85, that's all I brought. I don't own a pair of zoom lens right now. And so for me to switch back and forth from this is truly a hassle. But honestly, with the FX6, I keep getting a lot of people that come up to me and keep asking about this camera. So it's really interesting to see that a lot of people are interested in the Sony ecosystem. I see a lot of mirrorless cameras. I see a lot of A7S3s, even APS-C lenses like the A6000 series. But no matter what, everybody keeps coming up to me and asking about the FX6, and they're like super excited to see. I see like 2 FX3s, but that shows the FX6 is a really well-respected camera. A lot of people are asking me about it, and honestly, it's doing the job. But I do wish for this conference I had a zoom lens, and now because of this, I'm gonna buy a zoom lens because I think it's necessary. I love primes, but switching back and forth, it's not efficient. But luckily, with my client, they want me just to film their brand and them interacting with customers and clients, so I don't really have to get guest speakers. So luckily. So here, basically what I'm doing is I want to do a little time lapse of the whole event. So I got everybody over there selling their services, and I thought it would be a good idea if I can do a time lapse. Now they want this whole video for Instagram Reels and stuff like that, so that's why I'm shooting with aspect ratio like that on the FX6. But on my monitor right here, I'm just getting a whole time lapse because I might not use this for the vertical content. I might use this for their YouTube content. But you know, it's very important to get different shots and establish different scenarios, because you never know what the client will want. Specifically with them, they told me that they want a lot of interactions with customers that they have. So that's what I'm getting right here. And so far it's working pretty good. The lighting in here is really bad. You can see I have an ND on 1/119, and then I'm at an f2.8. The lighting in here is not the best, but honestly, I'm trying to make it work. I am utterly terrified right now. Look how cool she is. But I gotta make it work because I cannot move it. Got here around 10 and these batteries are still running. 47%. I've been shooting all day, but I'm gonna get the next scene on a yacht. So I'm gonna plug it in now and probably just use the normal NPF Sony battery, but these are really good batteries. So one thing I did want to mention to you guys that I didn't mention earlier is how I even got this gig, how I even got this project. So this project actually came from a retainer client of mine. This was actually a person who I worked with months ago, honestly dating back to December. They hit me up and said, hey, I know somebody who's looking for a videographer and they're going to Miami for 3 days and we're highly interested in you. You worked for me, I like your work, and I know that you can produce good work. So they hired me. They hit me up 2 months ago, hired me for this event, and that's how I got the job. So it's just so important in keeping retainer clients. That's just really crucially important. You never know who knows who. So I'm basically back here again at the event, and the easiest part, I can always say this over and over again, is basically I'm just following them. Wherever they go, I go. So right now they're doing a little podcast. This podcast company already has lights set up, so all I'll do is set up my little tripod like this. Boom, get the shots. I mean, I'm trying to do the best that I can, so I got a 35 G-Master on. I'm getting the shots, doing what I can. The microphone right here. Wish I can boom this over somehow, but I don't want to mess up their shots, so that's why I'm not booming it. I just have the gain set up. I have the gain actually right here on, I think it's on 4 actually. If I go to my menu section, I don't want to mess anything up over here. Yeah, so I have the input right here. I have a negative 60 decibels, and it's not clipping for the most part because it is far away. It's just capturing a lot of the ambient sounds, which is kind of a pain in the neck, but I mean, hey, what can I do? I just go in post and try to fix it later, but this is the setup for now. This is day 2 so far, so it's going good. A lot of people here. Whole crowd just walked in. And again, I'm just following them all day. Easy money. So another thing I wanted to add, the reason why I'm on this side and not over there, because I feel like if I was over there, the camera would have been pointing this way and it would have got just them 3. I wouldn't have got the guy, I probably got like the back of his head. So plus all these lights, again, I don't want to mess up their setup, so I'm here just for those 3. So I think the appropriate choice would have been right here, because now I'm able to get all 3 of them, as you can tell. I have all 3 right there, and then I have the guy, the host, right there. I think if I was on that side, I would have got the back of his head or like the side of his profile phase. And so you wouldn't be able to see who is asking them the questions. So that is my choice on why I chose this spot in particular. And I try to get as close as I can without getting in their way. Now I did put it into Super 35 mode, and it did crop it in and made it more cinematic, but I wasn't able to get that guy there, the host. I was only able to get those 3 and barely any of him. So it was just mainly those 2 was in the frame. So I didn't want to do that. So I put it back to full frame mode, and I think this is appropriate.
I was and remain committed to hoping these lows get taken so I can get better buys. But yeah, in this situation, price did end up kind of going right back up. Again, buyers stepped in, the market dynamics changed. But with a trade like that, again, if you took that with appropriate risk reward, it's like a 1 to 6, 1 to 7, 1 to 8. You probably should have scaled out something like that point.
You know, one of the greatest parts about being a freelance videographer is the fact that your camera can get you in so many places for free. Like this event that I'm a part of, the tickets for this event cost $2,000 per person. The fact that I got into this event completely free and I'm soaking up the same knowledge that everyone else paid to get, and I'm getting it for free because I'm hired as a videographer. That's just so crazy what this camera can get me into, places that I can never imagine. So that's really a good perk about being a videographer is you're open up to so many doors that you typically wouldn't have if you were just a normal consumer going to an event like this. We are now on day 3 of filming this live event in this conference. But first, I wanted to talk about the FX6 and it as a whole. So this FX6 along this whole trip has brought me nothing but just ease. It's so efficient, it's so good, it works so fast. But another big thing and why it's important to own a camera like this is because the way it looks. Like, look at this camera. Like, this camera during this whole trip to Miami, Florida, filming and networking and meeting people and just filming for the client, this camera has brought me so many eyeballs. Like, you don't understand how many people have walked up to me and asked me about this camera. I actually potentially just landed another client. I was at a it was like an after party VIP event, and I was filming with the client. They wanted like the day in the life. And so I was just walking around, literally just walking around with this camera in my hand. I wasn't even filming anything, I was just walking around with it. And then a guy came up to me, he was like, hey, do you do videos? Are you a videographer? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, man, I seen your camera from all the way on the other side. It looks really sick. Like, looking for a guy who can potentially do video work for us. My boss is looking for an assistant. We always need help. And he was like, we do commercials, we do the news, and we do all type of media and stuff. And he was like, we need another on-hand videographer. And he was like, your camera looks amazing. And then he asked me, can I turn it on and show him the image quality? And I showed him it, and he was stunned by it. He was like, wow, that's very amazing. And he literally gave me his boss's Instagram. He texted his boss for me on my Instagram. and told him that, hey, I found a guy, I spoke to so-and-so, and he's a videographer and an editor. Because if you guys don't know, I also edit as well. I would prefer to be just a DP, but I do take on editing jobs as well, if needed, if required. But obviously I do charge a little extra for that. But yeah, it's just this camera alone, like me just walking around holding this camera, just landed me potentially another client. And that's so crazy to me. I feel like if I was, like whenever I had my A7S III, people would sometimes come up to me, but they would come up to me as like a photographer. You know, they wouldn't really come up to me as like a video guy, and they weren't really like memorized either. They weren't really like, wow, like this guy, when he came up to me, he was like, wow, that's a big camera. I told you guys, this whole event, I was the only guy there with FX6. There was one other guy with an FX6 that I seen. And believe it or not, it's crazy because he was using the Helios 55-2, I think, or so 2.2, I don't know, the Helios lens, the prime lens, the old vintage Russian lens. He was using that. He was filming the whole event on that, which is pretty interesting to me. And so I asked him about it, and you know, I couldn't help myself because that's a cheap lens. This lens is going for like $130 compared to the 35 G Master, which is $1,200, $1,300. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, how just walking around with your camera can draw eyeballs to you, you know. Now, sometimes it doesn't draw the right eyeballs, but depending on where you're at, so you gotta be safe with it. But if you're in the right event, in the right situation, this camera draws eyeballs. This camera has brought me so much attention this whole event, literally the whole event. And I don't think I would have got the same attention with the A7S III, because there was guys there with mirrorless bodies. There's a guy there with an FX3 on a gimbal. There's a guy there with a A7 IV. But I don't know, I just don't think, maybe it's just my opinion, but I just don't think I would have got the same attention if people didn't see all this. Because when they look at this, they're like, wow. Even my clients, when I landed here in the Airbnb, I had it laid out on the table just like this, and they walked in, they're like, wow, that's a big camera. You know, people see this and they're like, wow. So I don't know, I just want to talk about that. I thought that was pretty cool, pretty interesting. Just, I don't know, just look at it, like, wow.